Welcome to EPG Pathshala. We are going to study module number 10, which is on catchment modeling, the third and the concluding part on catchment modeling. In this module, we are going to understand how modeling is to be used for actual cases, and that case can be related to a catchment and to conjunctive water use, and of course to groundwater modeling as well. So we are going to take up three kinds. So the first will be the rainfall runoff kind. Now in that rainfall runoff kind, what we have to do is we are going to discuss the rainfall runoff modeling of the catchment. So when we are talking in terms of the rational formula, what we are going to discuss is the fact that why the rainfall, the runoff depends on the intensity of rainfall. And then when we discuss the ICA HRES formula or model, we are going to see how the rainfall excess is used, and then of course the Crockford model, the Darcy's law and the mod flow. Then after we are, so this is how the flow is going to be there. So in case of the rational formula, which is used to determine the catchment runoff that is generated. So what we have taken into consideration is the catchment, which is of 10 hectares, and there is a main drain or there is a main runoff channel through which the water has to flow. Now the question is, how much water will flow through this drain at the end, at the outlet? We are going to measure that. So for that, how do we do it? So this is done with the help of the model, which has got a constant called C, and it has an I and an A. The A is of course the catchment area, and the I happens to be the intensity of rainfall. So this intensity of rainfall that we take into consideration is the major component of rational formula. So when I am talking in terms of the intensity of rainfall being the major component of the formula or the model, let us understand why. Now here what you can see is that the time of concentration is defined. Now in case of the time of concentration, it happens to be a factor which is dependent on the length of flow, and it is dependent on the gradient of the catchment. Why? Because the length through which the water has to flow determines, or it reflects, the time taken by the last rainfall drop, as in the farthest rainfall drop of the catchment to reach the catchment outlet, and the gradient is also responsible. So steeper the gradient, lesser will be the time required, and lesser the gradient, more will be the time required. So this time of concentration is extremely important to understand, and based on this time of concentration, what we do is we take a return period. Let us say we have a return period of 20 years or 25 years. So based on this time of concentration and the return period that we have chosen, we are able to determine the intensity of rainfall. So for example, if we want to simulate the conditions of runoff, or simulate the runoff that will be created because of a rainfall of once in 25 years, so what we do is we take that return period of 25 years and then we try and determine the time of concentration, as in the entire time that is required by the catchment for the last drop of rainfall to reach till the catchment outlet. So with that TC, we are able to get the intensity of rainfall, and using that we get the catchment runoff that can be generated. So as you can see, by taking one constant and by taking two variables, we are able to generate a runoff model. So that runoff model is used for smaller catchments. But in case of large catchments, we use the second type of model that you see here. Now in this, it is very clearly explained that this model has got certain subcomponents. So the first component is the non-linear model. Now this non-linear model tells us about the rainfall losses. Now in this, rainfall losses are used. Now once this is there, we get the effective rainfall. What do we mean by effective rainfall? So if the precipitation or the rainfall happens to be R, then that rainfall which is able to generate surface flow, as in surface runoff, will be 0.8 that means 80% of the rainfall that has actually fallen, 70% or 60% is what gets converted, and that is what results in the quick flow component. So you have the quick flow component, which is again explained in terms of a linear model, and then we have a slow flow component. Now this slow flow component happens to be the base flow. The two of them together added gives us the stream flow. So we can use that kind of a model depending on the characteristics that are available to us. So if you compare the rational formula with the HERES model, you will see that the second model is more complicated, but for that you need to have more information, you need to have more variables. So if those information or variables are not available to us, then we can use rational formula, where that also gives us reasonably good answers. Now when I talk in terms of reasonably good answers, I mean that the uncertainty is not too high. So it depends on the application. So in both these cases you saw that it was the runoff that has been that we have tried to get from the catchment, and this runoff can be determined by using one or the other model depending on the kind of information that we want and depending on the kind of information that we have. Now this Kropf-Watt model is again a model used for water planning. Now this model we have discussed a little in the previous module. Here we will discuss the mathematical components of this model. Now here if you recall the previous discussion in the previous module, what we have determined is that it is the evapotranspiration of each catchment of each crop in the catchment that can be given by the Kropf-Watt model. So the agrarian pattern is established. So we of course know that evapotranspiration is something which is important to calculate, and the crop water requirement is important to calculate. Why? Because we need to know the daily soil moisture balance, the root growth, the effective rainfall and the deep percolation. Now all these are factors which our model must be able to tell us, and these parameters are taken into account in the Kropf-Watt model, and the model has separate interfaces where climate input factor like maximum and minimum temperature, rainfall, humidity, wind speed, sunlight hours, all those are taken into consideration, and that is how it is able to predict the evapotranspiration requirement with such accuracy, and it is able to simulate the catchment characteristics, the catchment climate conditions, to be honest. So when you look at this sub model of the evapotranspiration, what you see here is that it takes into account the sunlight hours, the humidity that is available, the kind of temperature that is there in that area. So this is known as the Penman-Montieth equation. Now the modified Penman-Montieth equation is the most standardized form of evapotranspiration model that is available, and this is used for the entire world. So once we have this kind of a model where no matter what it can be, it is able to simulate conditions of different parts of the world, then we can actually see a pattern of crop water requirement emerging, and based on that crop water pattern that is emerging, we can of course try and adopt the best practices in agriculture. Particularly in case of Indian conditions, trying to adopt the best practices of agriculture would be important, looking at the water scarcity situation of the future, wherein we say that India is going to be a water stressed nation. So I encourage you to go through the Kropf-Watt software because it is available in open software. As far as the groundwater models are concerned, now the biggest challenge for groundwater is we know that groundwater cannot be seen because it is flowing below the ground. It is not like a surface water stream which we can actually see. So while this being the case, we know that there is a lot of groundwater extraction which is happening. It is increasing over a period of time. And groundwater flows can be confined or unconfined. By unconfined aquifers, we mean that where the lower boundary is confined while the upper boundary is exposed, which means it is in the unconsolidated soil or sand deposits, especially in the flood plains. and the floodplains of the entire Gangetic basin is unconsolidated aquifers, while in case of the confined aquifers we know that it flows through two layers of rocks which are both impermeable. Now here let me tell you that confined aquifers are very complicated, and if we are drawing water from confined aquifers, recharge does not happen then and there. The recharge area of confined aquifers is somewhere else. So it is important to be able to assess the kind of water that we need for recharging of these aquifers. So the groundwater models are developed in order to be able to understand the water flow dimensions as well as the directions and the change in water level. So what we see from here is a traditional figure which shows the simulation of groundwater flow by using Darcy's formula. So here in this case what we see is that there is a difference in the levels that is created, and there is a medium through which the water is flowing, and that medium is sand. Now the reason sand was chosen was to show that higher the hydraulic conductivity, higher is the groundwater flow. So the Darcy's law essentially talks about groundwater flow based on the hydraulic conductivity, which happens to be a property of the soil, and the gradient. By gradient we mean the difference in the levels between two parts of the aquifer. While in this case, in this drawing, what you see is the extraction of groundwater. So here you see the pumping rate Q. So this pumping rate Q is simulated with respect to the depth of water through which, that means the pumping is done and how much, from what depth is the groundwater taken out, what is the radius of the well. So this pumping rate or discharge Q is dependent on the depth of the groundwater and the radius of the well and the radius of influence, meaning it talks about the groundwater being available from what radius. And this drawdown condition is extremely important to understand, because higher the drawdown, more are the chances of depletion, faster depletion of groundwater. And that is the reason that we have something called the mod flow. Now the mod flow is a computer program wherein the discharge is calculated for the soil in different layers, the groundwater which is available in different layers, and here the hydraulic conductivity and the layers, as you can see, are mentioned. So the hydraulic conductivity varies from layer to layer, and the reason why the hydraulic conductivity varies from layer to layer is because the properties of different layers of soil is different, therefore their hydraulic conductivities also respond differently. And here, as you can see, that we use the mass flow equation, so and we use the equation of continuity to understand the groundwater flow. And here what we are trying to say is that groundwater flows in 2 dimensions as well as 3 dimensions. So the mod flow is an equation which is or a model which is based on Darcy's law in 3 dimensions, and it incorporates parameters of storage as well. So these are the hydraulic Kx, Ky and Kz are the hydraulic conductivity in x, y and z directions, while we see that we take the pumping rate. Now essentially the pumping rate happens in the vertical direction, and Hx, Hy and Hz are the hydraulic heads in the different directions, and that tells us about the amount of storage which happens in the aquifer in the different directions. But what I would like to caution you here is that because of this kind of complexity, what we try and say is that the aquifer is homogeneous, and we try and take the same hydraulic conductivity in all the 3 layers. And when we take that kind of thing where the hydraulic conductivity is the same in all 3 layers, then that also, though that makes the model simplistic, but that is not something that matters. So the groundwater flow in 3 dimensions is solved using finite difference method, where the entire flow region under consideration is divided into small blocks, as you saw from that diagram. So the initial condition, the hydraulic properties must be known, and with these hydraulic heads, as in the outputs, are determined, and so we know that actually how much water has flown over a period of time. So many times the vertical flow component is something which is negligent, because we know that the hydraulic conductivity in that direction is the least, and then we take the flow in 2 dimensions if we want to understand the flow from one place to the other. So if that be the case, then we take the kx and the ky into consideration. So as you have seen in this module, we can understand that surface water and groundwater are 2 separate components of the hydrological cycle. So if we want to understand them as 2 separate components, we can do that. If we want to understand the interface, if we want to understand that if we have to go for conjunctive use, as in we can have a balance of the surface water and groundwater use, that also can be studied with the help of modeling. And the fact that these systems are all interconnected hydrologically, geologically and topographically. So surface water groundwater interactions take place wherever there is a permeable material that is involved. So there are times when the groundwater contributes to the stream flow, and there are times when the stream flow contributes to the groundwater. So whenever the groundwater table is higher, so the stream receives rainfall, and whenever the stream flow is higher, the groundwater receives the water. So the interconnectedness can also be studied, and that is also studied in certain higher grade models. So I hope this has been something which has told you about groundwater applications as well as surface water modeling. Thank you.